Hey guys, my name is Dan, and this is Stout Gaming. This week in the MDL Pokemon VGC Draft League, I am playing against Charles. Charles is also undefeated. He had a bye earlier, so he's sitting at a crisp, clean 1-0. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and look at the matchup. So this week on Charles' team, I highly expect to see the Nagana-DEAD, Heatran, Gastrodon, and Liepard. The Liepard's really his only way to deny me from getting a free Colossal up, and Gastrodon is a secondary way to deal with Colossal fairly effectively, so I think those two are pretty mandatory. Nagana-DEAD gives his team offensive pressure. It is faster than anything that I have on my team, just as a baseline, and the Heatran is a pretty powerful attacker as well that can also absorb fire attacks that I might otherwise be tempted to spam. In the Might-C category, I've got the Mudsdale, Corviknight, Aromatisse, and Eldegoss. If I'm being honest, I almost put the Mudsdale and Corviknight in the likely to see and dropped the other two into the not likely, but I do think there's a chance that there is some variability here, especially with that Eldegoss. He could try a Trick Room mode with the Aromatisse, but I don't really foresee that happening, but I have to be ready for it just in case it does. But I do think the Mudsdale does line up very well into a lot of my team except the Primarina, and that's what he's got the Gastrodon for. So that's going to be a bit of rock, paper, scissors that I'm going to have to play with him. Now, if you look at what I'm likely to bring, I'm definitely bringing the Tornadus, Primarina, Garchomp, and Arcanine. That core of four just works so well together. They're going to be probably the four most popular things I bring on the season, and I'm very happy with their performance so far. In the could bring category, Purloin and Tangela stand out as decent support options this week. Luxray does well into a lot of things on his team, especially if I go with more offensive Guts Luxray. The Colossal, if it gets up, is pretty free, although Mudsdale and Gastrodon together are solid answers to a Colossal that is already gone off. They can usually eat an attack and KO back. So it's not as free as it might seem. And then I could also just bring my own Trick Room mode in case I think he brings his, because I do believe that I have a stronger one, because the Cofagrigus can really shut down the Mudsdale better than basically anything else. And then the Copperaja does well into the Aromatisse and a lot of his team, actually. I decided not to unleash the power that is Diglett. I didn't want to break his body over the little nub sticking out of the ground. That may come a different week. Matt Alcina, I am looking at you. That Diglett could come for your soul. But without any further ado, let's look at what I'm actually bringing this week. So I'm bringing a Weakness Policy Primarina set. I'm very happy with it. At 96 speed, it will outspeed Nagana-DEAD under Tailwind, a neutral Nagana-DEAD, which is important for me. If he leads with a Nagana-DEAD and I've got the Primarina, I can max in front of it. The Nagana-DEAD will hit it with a Poison type attack, which will take about 50%. Then I will KO back with a Max Fairy with it on a 4 HP Nagana-DEAD. So 4 EVs into HP, I KO back with Max Fairy with this setup if Weakness Policy goes off. Or if Weakness Policy doesn't go off and it doesn't max, I also KO that way. So I am happy with how the Primarina looks, and the Energy Ball is obviously a safer click into the Mudsdale if I haven't seen the Gastrodon, or the Gastrodon if it does come out. So I'm overall very happy with this set. I think it has the potential to deal a substantial amount of damage this week. It is going to be supported by this Tornadus. There's a good chance I change that Focus Sash for a Mental Herb. Going sort of back and forth on those. We'll see in the battle. But it is basically just the Prankster Tailwind set with some pretty standard attacks. Grass Knot for the Mudsdale and for the Gastrodon as an option for when they're not maxed. Sludge Wave, if he doesn't trigger the Weakness Policy on the Primarina, I can trigger my own, and it does an okay amount of spread damage. And then Air Slash as just a standard stab attack. With its speed, it's going to be 1 point faster than the Garchomp and still outspeed a +1 Nagana-DEAD while under Tailwind. Speaking of the Garchomp, speed stat 1 point slower than the Tornadus. Again, that's just so I am sure about turn order in case that comes up. I don't want to randomly have a speed tie. I'm giving it Protect, Rock Slide, Dragon Claw, and Stomping Tantrum. Stomping Tantrum hits his two biggest offensive threats really well. Dragon Claw is decent neutrally into a lot of things, and then the Habanberry will guarantee me to survive even a +1 Draco Meteor, I believe. I'm definitely changing that Sand Veil. That should be Rough Skin. It just comes out weird on Showdown sometimes. So that is another adjustment that I am definitely making. The Habanberry, though, I like the tech this week against Nagana-DEAD to allow me to KO it back if it gets something and then Garchomp comes out. I'm a really big fan of my Arcanine set this week as well. It's super bulky, no speed investment, Snarl, Scorching Sands, Solar Beam, Heat Wave. Flamethrower might technically be better than Solar Beam, but Solar Beam's a lot more fun in that slot, especially if I get... I max this Arcanine a non-0% of the time, and with a max heat, I do get free Solar Beam, or I could just launch a max Grass out of nowhere to surprise KO certain things. With the Assault Vest, it survives a lot against his team. Like max Quakes from Heatran don't come close, like that kind of thing. I'm very happy with this Arcanine set, and I do think it's got the potential to put in a lot of work this week. Coffagrigus, this is my I Don't Lose to Mudsdale set. It's got Trick Room, Haze, Iron Defense, and Body Press. Haze can get away any of the Mudsdale's boosts. Under TR, I will be slower than it, so faster than it. Iron Defense, I can start buffing up my defense and body pressing. It's a leftover set, so it's going to be decently hard to kill. I did consider putting Will-O-Wisp on it, but it didn't seem like the right play this week. And I did give it a lot of special defense, since I'm going to be boosting its physical defense if it hits the field. And I want to make sure that it doesn't just die to a Nagana-DEAD or a Heatran or something similar to that before it can get going. And lastly, we're taking a look at the Copperajah this week. Maybe it'll hit the field. Who knows? I'm going 4 attacks, Life Orb, Sheer Force. The bulk on it, it actually survives more both physical and special attacks this way than if I'd put that all into HP. It's got the weird stat total where that makes sense. Power Whip, in case, again, for the 2 slower ground types that he's got. High Horsepower hits his offensive mode very, very well. Heat Crash is important for the Corviknight, which could potentially come out, and then Iron Head is general coverage, / it destroys Aromatisse. But without any further ado, let's cut back when I'm getting ready to go over the battles. Alright, so looking at his team for Game 1, the biggest thing I noticed is no Heatran, but he does have basically everything else that I expected. The Eldegoss, I guess, is the biggest surprise, but I was ready for it. Everything else looks pretty standard. Torn Arcanine seems correct here, with Garchomp Prim in the back. I'm just thinking through it one more time, think if there's a potential other lead that seems better, but no. Solar Beam on the Arcanine is probably pretty strong, so I'll want to have the opportunity to set Sun or just launch a Solar Beam. And I'm feeling decent about this battle at this point. If he had brought something that I was straight up not expecting, or if he brought the Trick Room mode, I might have been a bit less comfortable going in. But this Arcanine Tornadus should beat most of what he has in front of him, would be my guess. Not 100% on that, obviously, but it does give me a degree of confidence before getting into the battle, at least. With that being said, he's really thinking through these picks. I could see really any combination of the bottom 4 coming, but I think Liepard always needs to come, and Nagana-DEAD generally always needs to come as well at some point. So getting into the battle, his trainer card is pretty awesome, and he's got a clean suit, so I'm a bit nervous. But we see the Liepard Corviknight lead. That doesn't beat this. Depending on the Corviknight's bulk, a Max Flare just off the gate has the potential to take it out. And if he tries to taunt me, I get Tailwind because I've got the Mental Herb, and if he fakes me out, I get Tailwind next turn. So if he tries to set Tailwind this turn, if I take out the Corviknight, he doesn't get it. If I don't take out the Corviknight and he fakes me out, then I will have the last turn of Tailwind while his expires. So I actually feel like that's a bit in my favor. I'm very split between Heat Wave and Max Flare here. I double ran this calc again. Heat Wave basically never KOs the Corviknight. Max Flare, depending on his set, could do it. And I decided to pull the trigger on the Max Flare, and then this would give me a better idea of his set for the long run as well. Like how much bulk it is, how much attack it's going to have. If it survives, I'm just going to leave it on the field because it's not going to do much. So we just maxed the Arcanine. He's a good boy. He's ready to bark. And the Corviknight doesn't max, which was a potential worry with this play, but the fake out into the Torn, I don't think he can kill the Torn from there, and we get to run calcs with the Max Flare to see how bulky he is. The answer is pretty bulky. He survives that, so he's got to be rather bulky, but now I've got Sun up. He's not really surviving much in the future. He gets Tailwind up, but I will also get a free Tailwind up, because even if he has Taunt, I still get it up. So, the question here is, what do I attack into? It's not the Corviknight. I'm not wasting this max on picking up the KO there, because this Corviknight's doing nothing. I want to attack into the Liepard, and now I've just got to predict what I think comes in. Honestly, I think he switches the Liepard for Nagana-DEAD. Like, that's the prediction I'm going to make here. If he switches it for the Gastrodon, I obviously would have preferred to go for the Max Grass, but even if it is the Gastrodon, getting up another +1 special defense on my guys feels really good in this position, so there's not a downside to hitting Max Quake into that slot. Leaving it in, I didn't really expect. I mean, I'm okay with it, obviously, but he does U-turn out. So, I know that I've clicked Max Quake into that slot. I just really, really hope that I see this Gastrodon. I want nothing more, I mean not Gastrodon, Nagana-DEAD. I want nothing more, to read the word Nagana-DEAD, see that thing come out, and just know that it is getting eviscerated right here. Bye-bye. So yeah, there goes Nagana-DEAD, and I'm in a very solid position, because Corviknight as a max option doesn't have a lot of HP. Nagana-DEAD, the best offensive mon against my team, just came in and died. Corviknight's roosting up. I'm okay with that. I'm not attacking that slot. So he's basically got to max whatever his fourth Pokemon is. If it's Eldegoss, he loses. If it's one of the other two, there's potential there, because they can both hit into this Arcanine, and it is the Gastrodon. So, I guess I've got to test to see if it's a Rindo Berry. I assume it's going to max, so I can't Grass Knot into that slot. So I'll just slash into the Corviknight, try and flinch it or deal chip damage. I don't really know what the Corviknight's doing at this point, but max Overgrow into the Gastrodon slot seems good, because worst case it gets rid of a Rindo Berry. And Chunks. Best case, this just picks up a KO. But, time to find out, because we're getting max Gastrodon. I don't really know what animal Gastrodon's supposed to be. Like, I think it's a sea slug or something, so slug's out, I guess. But I'm comfortable in this situation. Try and get a flinch. I don't really care if it heals to full with Roost. Like, what's it gonna do there? So we do see that it is Rindo Berry, which is good information moving forward. This will still do a chunk, and Sun's up, so I can just start launching Solar Beams as well. But that's a pretty bulky Gastrodon. Solar Beam isn't going to kill from there, even in grassy terrain. I don't think. I mean, there's a chance it does, but Corviknight roosts up again. Gastrodon will get an attack off. And this feels like a good situation for me, because the only thing that can really deal damage feels like the Gastrodon. And I don't think that that's going to be horrible to me. Like, yeah, he hit super effectively into there, but I'm +1 special defense Arcanine with an Assault Vest. He's not going to KO it, so I'm going to get at least 2 Solar Beams into there if I want, or he has to double up into the Arcanine. Like, none of this feels like a bad option for me. So here, I think I just wanted to air slash into the Corviknight again to deal some random chip that doesn't really matter. And I think the Gastrodon protects, and he might try to double up with the Corviknight, so I do think Heat Wave is the play here, and then I Solar Beam into it for free. So if I can pick up the Corviknight KO, I'm going to feel comfortable, even though it will give him the fake out with the Liepard in the back. I don't think that Liepard's super threatening late game. So if I have to 4v2 Gastrodon Liepard, I feel pretty good about it. But the Liepard just switches in. The Gastrodon guards. I imagine the Liepard has fake tears and that was the play, but this Liepard just switched in to die. As long as Heat Wave hits, that is. The Liepard just switched in to die. Diepard, I guess you could say. So yeah, the Corviknight, if it has offensive capabilities, could make this interesting in the long term. But I'm not super threatened at this point. I think I can make some comfortable plays and win the game. So Gastrodon, it's one more turn of max. I've got one more turn where I can launch a free Solar Beam before the sun expires, I believe. So I'm going to do the Solar Beam play because the Gastrodon isn't going to try to protect again on the last turn of its Dynamax. Like, that just wouldn't make sense to me. So I could KO here, probably not with how much bulk it has and now that it's at +1, but I am in grassy terrain. There's a chance, but I'm not counting on it. Get the Air Slash off again, launch the Solar Beam. Sun is out, hits hard, and Gastrodon survives, but it's in pretty easy KO range and the Corviknight flinches. He will pick up a KO on the Tornadus with the Hailstorm here. I'm pretty okay with that. My differential is going to look decent this game. I don't actually know if that crit mattered or not, but this Hail actually will chip the Gastrodon down unless it has Recover. And I feel decent about where I am right now. So I've just got to figure out a way to guarantee knock out the Gastrodon. And I think the Garchomp is better at that job than the Primarina, and that would let me just Heat Wave single target. Because the Arcanine is going to be faster than the Primarina, so working through the different potential attack calcs, this way I get a guaranteed KO without leaving myself open to another death. So that's just what I'm going to take. I'll just Dragon Claw into that slot, launch Heat Wave. Single target, it'll kill the Corviknight. Double target, I don't know, based on the Corviknight's bulk. So if the Gastrodon protects, he might be able to get off a Tailwind. And then we have a potentially interesting game, but his own Hail will kill him likely at that point. But it doesn't protect, it just goes down, and then the Heat Wave comes in, and it takes out the Corviknight. So that was game 1, and I will be right back at you guys with game 2. So, moving into game 2. I'm pretty sure he wants to bring something that doesn't lose to the Arcanine Tornadus. I'm not sure what that is off the top of my head, but Nagana-DEAD makes sense here, and I want the Nagana-DEAD to hit the Primarina to give me the weakness policy. So Torn Primarina is my lead, and I'm going to have the other two in the back. Trick Room's not really necessary for me, and I'm very comfortable with this decision, because what he does is he'll either fake out and pick up the KO on Torn, in which case the Prim has enough special attack to KO an unmatched Nagana-DEAD, or he will fake out / taunt the Torn and launch a poison type attack into the Prim, in which case even if the Nagana maxes, it takes it down. If he splits the difference and fake outs into the Torn and maxes the Nagana-DEAD, assuming those two are the lead, then I could potentially have an issue. Like, that's where I've got potential issues, but I think that I'm okay in that position, because I'll still get the fairy up, but it will, and I'll be able to tailwind. No, unless he took out the Torn. That might be an issue. So that could be an issue for me. But here the easy play is just to Starfall into the Nagana-DEAD and try to tailwind. I could also think about attacking with the Torn here, because I could tailwind next turn, but I still don't know if this Lipard does or does not have taunt. And a taunt, me attacking, would be probably worst case scenario, because then it could just taunt again next turn, and that would be pretty bad for me. So I'll just go for the Tailwind, max, and try to hit into the Nagana-DEAD. I am maxing first, so I'm killing Nagana-DEAD. There's no way around it. Nagana-DEAD's dead. Unless it's... No, there's no way that the Nagana-DEAD's slower. Like, even with an Iron Ball, I don't think it... Well, with an Iron Ball, it would be slower. But Iron Ball and Nagana-DEAD would be mind-blowing. So Draco comes out just to KO onto the Torn. I'm okay with this. I'll trade Torn for Nagana-DEAD in this matchup any day, because Torn did its job of centralizing the attacks. I don't really need to control the speed if his fastest thing is dead, which it is now, because this kills Nagana-DEAD, especially after Life Orb damage, even if it has little bulk. Bye-bye. Okay, so here I have to think what I want to put into the Torn slot based on what I think comes out. I think in this position you either send out Corviknight or Mudsdale, if you have either of those in the back. So Arcanine seems good here, because it's a bad matchup for that Mudsdale if it comes out, and if the Corviknight comes... I mean, for the Corviknight if it comes out. If the Mudsdale comes out, I'm not going to complain about getting an Intimidate off, and it's a special attacker, so I don't care as much about stamina boost. I would absolutely love to be able to launch Max Geyser here, but I can't, because I think there's a very good chance that Gastrodon is in the back. So I have to Heat Wave and try and catch the Gastrodon on the switch-in, or just hit the Mudsdale with a Max Overthrow. Honestly, Max Fairy here might have been the play. I could definitely see a world where that was the play, because that hits Eldegoss if that happens to be in the back, and nothing hits Corviknight if the Corviknight is what switches in, except Max Geyser, but then I start getting Max Geysers for free. So I'm amenable to Max Fairy being the play, because it also doesn't change terrain, and it stops the Eldegoss from sleeping things. So now I know that Mudsdale doesn't have support from the Gastrodon. So Max Geyser next turn seems free into that slot, unless it Max Guards, which, if I was it, I would do. But that's a different question. Okay, so Mudsdale gets a stamina boost. This thing's never going to die to a physical attack. And then Cotton Down comes out and affects everyone. And we're all going to be on the same speed tier except for the Eldegoss. Overgrown to that slot, doesn't pick up the KO. See, here's where Max Fairy might have picked up the KO and could have been the correct play, because I get the stab bonus and it would have been neutral damage. Can't really eyeball that perfectly. Well, plus terrain bonus. But everything's slow except the Eldegoss. Eldegoss probably sleeps something next turn. My question is, what does it go for? So, if I think the Eldegoss is going to target into the Prim, the correct play might be switch out the Prim and Heat Wave. let the Garchomp go down and get the Prim in to try and deal with the Mudsdale late game. If I think it's going into the Arcanine, then it depends on if I think the Mudsdale is max guarding or not. I'm going to go with the assumption that Mudsdale does not max guard here, so I'm going to launch a water attack there. And I think the Sleep comes into Arcanine to keep the Eldegoss alive, so that's what I'm going for. Max Starfall could have been a middle ground play as well, because that would have reset to range, the only one thing ever slept. So if I see a max guard here, I could be in some trouble, but otherwise I should be fine. This Mudsdale, I don't think one-shots the Prim. I'm not exactly sure what its set is, but it is the Bullet Seed Stamina Weakness Policy play. So Mudsdale's never dying to a physical attack, but it also didn't protect here, so these Bullet Seeds will go off, and then base power 150 stab Geyser kills it. Because it's not Assault Vest and not Water Resist, because now we see that it is Weakness Policy. Got plenty of defense ups, and I just get a double KO here because that kills the Eldegoss. Mudsdale takes a little bit of damage, gets another stamina boost. Doesn't really matter. Cotton Down comes out again. We're all the same speed. And Geyser. Like, I'm fairly certain this KO's an all-round ship, even though I never got weakness policy up. And then the only thing in the back is Liepard. He sent me good game at this point, which it was. I don't think the differential for this match shows exactly how close it was. There were a couple plays where I made the correct call and he made the incorrect call. But those 2 or 3 plays should not be the defining factor, the through line of this match. My reads just happened to be right this time, and it put me in pretty commanding positions to win. But good games to Charles. This Liepard's going to survive an attack with Focus Sash, and then I'm just going to try to figure out how exactly to not let something die to foul play so I can maximize my differential before Primarina picks up the KO. So I'm going to be signing off, and I will see you guys next week where I will be taking on defending champion Matt next week in depending on no, he's got the bye this week, so next week we will be the last 2 undefeated members of our division, and we will be going off head-to-head, so it's going to be a pretty fun match. But with that being said, please take some time to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of the battle. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.